Hi, and welcome to this presentation on AP Classroom Resources, most specifically the personal progress checks and the progress dashboard. My name is Claire Lorenz, and I work on the AP instruction team at the College Board. We really appreciate you joining us today. So this is one of several presentations on AP Classroom Resources in which we'll do a deep dive into the instructional tools the AP program has designed to support teachers of our AP Sciences courses. These resources can help you provide the practice and support your students will need regardless of where you are in the school year and how instruction is being delivered. So without further ado, let's get started with this presentation on the personal progress checks and the progress dashboard. So if you've joined us for a presentation before, you know we like to talk about our AP resources supporting teaching and learning, no matter what stage you're in the AP instructional cycle. So whether you're planning your lessons, teaching your lessons, having students practice what they've learned in a particular lesson, assessing student progress in understanding course content and skills as you move from unit to unit in a course, getting feedback about your students' progress or giving feedback on that progress to your students, there is an AP instructional resource aligned to every one of these steps. For the purposes of this presentation, we will be focusing on the last three steps, most specifically assessing student understanding of course concept and skills at the end of each unit via the personal progress checks, getting feedback on your class's progress via the class progress dashboard, and allowing students to see their own feedback, so giving students feedback via their own version of the progress dashboard. So let's start with talking about what personal progress checks actually are. So personal progress checks are full form checks for understanding that provide students with unit-wide formative assessment opportunities with both multiple choice and free response questions that will assess students' progress of learning content and skills for each unit. They provide the opportunity to both get feedback, so getting feedback to you as a teacher, and giving feedback. In other words, getting that feedback to students as well. It should be noted here that personal progress checks are formative in nature, meaning that they are meant to meet students where they are at a particular point during the school year. So you may notice that personal progress checks for earlier units, like units 1 and 2, may seem a little bit more foundational in nature with more emerging level questions than the personal progress checks you would see in later units in the course. And that's because personal progress checks will always assess what students have learned in that particular unit. We don't want early units to be super difficult if students don't have a certain amount of course content and skill already under their belt. I should also pause to mention here that the questions on the personal progress checks are very similar to the topic questions. If you've not watched our presentation on topic questions, we'd encourage you to do so. But just like topic questions, the questions on the personal progress checks assess specific topic skill pairings. It's just that the personal progress checks are going to assess all the topic skill pairings in a particular unit, whereas topic questions will assess only one particular specific and individual topic skill pairing. So in other words, progress checks are meant to be used at the end of every unit, while topic questions are meant to be used throughout each unit. In other words, as you are teaching each individual topic in that unit. As students take personal progress checks from unit to unit throughout the course, you will be able to see their progress in learning course content and skills via the progress dashboard. The class progress dashboard will help teachers identify common misunderstandings so that you can develop targeted supports on a class-wide, small group, or individual student level. So the data here will allow you to differentiate instruction and make adjustments throughout the year as needed so that you can meet the particular needs of your class sections. Likewise, students will be able to take ownership of their own learning through their own version of the progress dashboard. The student progress dashboard will highlight areas of growth and also highlight areas where students may need additional practice. So, as we like to do with all of these presentations on our AP instructional resources, we're going to go live into AP Classroom so that you can see how these resources work live time. Just a quick note here, you may hear me refer to personal progress checks as either personal progress checks, or PPCs. Just to clarify, all three of those terms will refer to the same resource. We use them interchangeably. Don't mean to confuse anyone. So please note that you will see personal progress checks, or PPCs refer to these unit-wide formative assessment opportunities. So I am going to bring up our AP classroom login screen. I'm at myap.collegeboard.org. That's myap.collegeboard.org. I'm going to use my username and password to log in. Encourage you to use your username and password also to log in and follow along with the classes that you teach. As I'm logging in, it's important to note that I'm going to be taken to a personalized homepage of AP Central. I will not yet be in AP Classroom. This personalized version of AP Central is customized and curated to me as an AP teacher. Yours will be curated to you so that you will see classroom resources that are most relevant to the courses that you teach. If you teach one course, two courses, three courses, four or more, you will see icons and links that are appropriate for those courses. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to scroll down to AP Environmental Science, and I'm going to go to AP Classroom for this course. So as we're waiting for AP Classroom proper to load here, I'm going to do my quick plug for the help menu in AP Classroom. Our AP Classroom team is always doing their best to try to improve the help menu and give teachers the information that they most need. You will note as you log in that the help menu will come up in the right-hand corner, and there will be multiple options for you to choose from. There is both a teacher version and a student version of the help menu. Um, the user guide for AP Classroom, rather, and it can be helpful for you to see both what the teacher sees and then also what the student sees. So again, we have both a teacher guide to AP Classroom and the student guide to AP Classroom. I've called up both of those here so you can see them. The one thing that you will note when you log into or click for the teacher user guide, you're going to immediately see recent additions or improvements to AP Classroom, including the dates when those improvements went live and what those improvements actually were. You will also see a series of quick start videos, which are very, very short tutorials that focus on the button pushing aspects of navigating certain functions in AP Classroom. For the purposes of this presentation, I'd really like to highlight unlocking a personal progress check. Excuse me, unlocking a personal progress check. This is about a 4.5 minute long video that will allow you to really navigate assigning a PPC or progress check to your students. If you prefer to read a little bit more on the functionality of assigning a progress check, I can use the guide here on the left-hand side, scroll down to personal progress checks, and see the various entries here, including assigning from the home page and seeing an annotated screenshot here, and previewing a progress check with all of the different buttons annotated in a particular way that will make it very, very clear what each button actually does. At the same term, you can also see a little bit more about the progress dashboard and how students see their own assessment results so that you can guide students about how they can see the results of their assessments. The student version of the AP Classroom User Guide will have annotated screenshots for students. So if you do want to see what students will see when they are logging into their own personal progress check results, this is how they will experience that result. And then also what the progress dashboard looks like for them in their own individual progress. So you can actually chart and help a student make sense of what their longitudinal progress across all of the units and progress checks really means for them. Um, so it's super helpful for you to get a sense of what students actually see when they log into AP Classroom. That said, I'm going to go back to the home screen here for AP Environmental Science. I'm on Unit 5. I'm going to go to the bottom of the screen here because I do want to point out that there are two ways to access and unlock the personal progress checks. The most obvious way, because they are meant to be assigned at the end of a unit, is to scroll to the end of the unit and to see the progress checks listed here. I do want to point out that topic questions are, and remind everyone that topic questions will assess a particular and singular topic content with its skill. So these topic questions are going to assess this topic skill pairing. The progress checks are going to assess all of the topic skill pairings in the entire unit. As you can see for an AP Environmental Science Unit 5, this unit is very long. It's got 17 topic skill pairings. We probably, AP Environmental Science teachers probably spend a lot of time on all of the content and skills of this unit. So one of the things that I will notice here is that the progress check has been broken up into two individual parts. Usually there's just an MCQ section and an FRQ section, that is multiple choice and free response. But in the event that an individual section would have been too long to be assigned in a singular 45-minute class period, we've broken that section up into two individual parts so that teachers can still preserve the opportunity for students to take the progress check during class time, whether you're doing that class time face to face or in a virtual setting. They don't have to be given during class time. They can be given outside of class. They can be given for homework. They can be given for a long-term assignment. So there's a variety of different ways they can be used. But if you do want to assign them during class time, we wanted to make sure that if you had a shortened class period, like 45 minutes, you would be able to have students come to a logical conclusion. And so we've broken up any really long sections into multiple parts. That does not necessarily mean that each individual part is going to take 45 minutes each. It just means that the two of them together would have taken 45 minutes or longer. So in this particular case, I can be sure that students should be able to finish part A within a 45-minute period, part B within a 45-minute period, and then FRQ within a 45-minute period. So let's just take a quick look here. If I click on MCQ Part A, what I'm going to see here is a preview of the actual progress check. It looks like it's taking me to a different menu, but if you are patient enough, and perhaps even faster if your internet is faster than mine, the personal progress check questions will load. And this will allow you to kind of navigate through previewing all of the AP Classroom questions. I just want to kind of point out a couple of things here as you're doing a basic preview. Any questions that are connected by a dark line here are sharing the same stimulus. So I know that questions 1 through 3 here are going to share this same stimulus on the next green revolution. And if I click through, I can see that the question changed, but the stimulus itself actually stays the same. And then when I go to question 4, I'm going to get a new stimulus, but then this stimulus on overfishing will pervade through questions 5 and 6. Um, as I then proceed into the later questions, I will know that all of these questions are individual and they will not share any particular stimulus. So this may be a thing for some courses more than others. So it's just something to note as you are going through previewing all of these questions. I can tell by first glance there are 21 questions. If I wanted to see how many were in part B, I could X out of this and then also look at part B. We'll talk a little bit more about previewing and what else you can see here in a few minutes. I'm just going to X out of here for a second, and I'm going to be taken back to the Unit 5 homepage here. I'm going to scroll back to the bottom. Remember, we got that preview by clicking on the name of the assessment here. If I click on the actual icon, the padlock, what that is going to do is bring up the assignment screen. So it won't preview the assessment. It's going to bring up all of the options that I will need to assign this to my class. So if I'd already previewed this, or if I just want to jump straight to assigning this to my classes, then I can click this unlock button, set my preferences, and then update so that students can then start working on this progress check. So this is one way that I can assign personal progress checks. It's by using the buttons at the bottom of the unit tab. The other way that I can access and assign the progress checks is by using the progress check menu at the very top of the screen. So I'm going to click there, and what you'll notice first here is that there is a list of all of the progress check sections and parts for the entire course, regardless of whether I've assigned it. Right now, it's sorted so that the start date, anything with a start date is, and anything I've already assigned is pushed toward the top. I can click on some of these headers, and that is going to resort by that particular column. So now I have all of my progress check assessments and sections in unit order. I'm going to scroll down to Unit 5, Part A. That's what I had been looking at before. There's a couple of ways here that you can get a preview. I can either click on this itself, or I can go over to Actions and say Preview Quiz. I always think it's my tendency is to just click on the assessment name, and I'm going to get the same preview that I got before. So a couple more things about the preview that I'm seeing here. You'll note that I can scroll through by just clicking on the individual questions if I want. I can also scroll through by using the arrows here. I can assign from here, and I can also generate a scoring guide. This scoring guide is going to give me a PDF that's going to generate here, and is going to give me all of the questions with the correct answers already highlighted. So it will generate that PDF. I can load that PDF, and I can use this as a reference tool for myself, or I can use it as a um, just a means to provide an answer key to students if I wanted to. So you will see as this loads that I will get all of the questions and the correct answers highlighted. So I can actually see that full stimulus that questions 1 through 3 share. Here is the answer to question 1. And I continue to scroll through and see the other answers as well. I'm going to go back to AP Classroom here, and I'm going to point out that if you watched our presentation on topic questions, you may remember that there were other particular options up here in the right-hand corner. There was an option to edit the assessment. There was an option to generate a print preview without the answers so that you could give that to students. Let me take a minute to explain why those options are not here. First is that you cannot break up a personal progress check. You may remember me saying early on in this presentation that is meant to be a full form uh, unit wide assessment, which means we need a certain number of questions that assess each individual topic skill pairing in order to give you somewhat of a set of reliable data to help you make instructional decisions for your class. So if you were to go through this and eliminate certain questions, then we would not have the same number of instances that assess that a particular topic skill pairing. If there's only one question that assesses a topic skill pairing, a student can guess and get that question correct, and then we don't really know if that student needs additional support with learning that topic content and skill. So there are roughly about 3 questions per every topic skill pairing on the progress check at the end of the unit. Likewise, the only assessments on AP Classroom that require the teacher to give them and students to take them online only are the multiple choice sections of the progress check. I'll say that one more time just for clarity. The multiple choice sections of the progress checks must be taken online. There is no print option for the multiple choice sections of the progress checks. And we do this so that you are able to have the data right away from the multiple choice questions so that you can quickly make those decisions about shifting instructional practice if you need to, or providing additional support without having to worry about going in and scoring things by hand or inputting data into a learning management system. So we can generate that data for you right away when students take this assessment online and make it available to both you as a teacher and to them. Um, I will say here that just like the topic questions screen, if I expand this question scoring and details panel, I'm going to get a lot of useful information about this question. I will also be shown the correct answer and the rationale for that correct response. I can click through the incorrect responses and also read the rationales for why these are not the correct answers. There's always the possibility of an instructional nugget here that may help your students not make these kinds of mistakes in the future. There's also information on the side to tell you, is there a stimulus? What type of stimulus is it? Is this part of a set? If so, what type of set? What parts of the course framework is this aligned to? What skill and topic is it aligned to? Because now that we have all of them together, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is assessed in order. So I know right away this question 1 is assessing the topic skill pairing of 5.3 and skill 3B. So just a couple of things to note about previewing this assessment. I can assign it from here, but I'm actually going to X out of this, and I'm going to look again at my other options here. I can again unlock the quiz here through the actions menu, or I can unlock it here. And I can click. And what will happen is I will be taken to the kind of like the progress section of the assessments tab. Right now, I can see that it's set for online test format, but it is not open for students because there's no start date. I can update my settings here. I can decide whether or not I want this to be for period 1, period 2, or all of them. Notice here I can only have this say online because, again, the multiple choice sections of progress checks must be given online, unlike other assessments in AP Classroom. I may want to set this so that as soon as students click submit, they will see the correct responses and get a score on how they did. I can open this by selecting the current date and time or a future date and time if I'd like. I can set a due date if I'd like. I can set a timer if I'd like. A reminder that these little info buttons will tell you more about what that feature does. And also a reminder that setting the timer will give students a prompt when the time has run out so that they are told that they should be submitting. But the timer is mainly used as an instructional and coaching tool. It will not lock students out of the assessment when the time has elapsed. That way we can accommodate students who might be entitled to extended time through their 504 or IEPs. Uh, if you do want to lock students out of an assessment, you'll need to set the due date to a particular time and day so that students will no longer be able to access the assessment after that date and time. I'm going to choose to apply this for all of my classes. I have a period 1 and a period 2. And you now see that I can toggle in between period 1 and period 2 if I want. And this has now changed to reflect what I updated the settings to. I can also manage the live test session because students will be doing this online. I can see my whole list of students since I just assigned it. It's not odd to see that none of them have started just yet, but as students go through, I will be able to see who's in progress, who is already submitted. For students who are in progress, I'll be able to see if they are actually active at their computer or if they've gone idle in some way, and then also what number of the assessment they are on. Um, I can choose to pause the time for everyone, resume the time for everyone. This has mostly use in a face-to-face setting as if there were a class interruption like a fire drill or an announcement or a visitor or something like this. I can also extend time for everyone in the class or for particular students who again might be entitled to that extra time per their 504 plans or our IEPs. So I'm going to X out of that. And just as we've done in other sessions, I want to remind you that these are fictitious students in my fictitious section of APES here. And I am going to actually generate some data. Let's say 14 students have completed the progress check. You do not have this button in your account. Your students are actually going to take the assessment in real life. So that's going to take a little bit longer than the couple of seconds that it will take here to generate some fictitious responses. And what you will see is what this looks like after your students submit their work on their progress check. So as students complete, let's see, as students complete, your screen will update. I can now see that 14 of my students have completed this, one has not. It's automatically been scored because it's multiple choice. I can see the date and time submitted. Obviously, all mine are the same because it was auto-generated, but your students will have submitted at different times. So you can see how long students actually took to do the assignment. I can also uh, um, leave particular feedback for specific students if I want to. So if I wanted to give Lucille particular words of encouragement, or why I wanted to tell her to concentrate on something specific that is really akin to just her, then I can write that in here, and only Lucille will be able to see this. Um, and I can save that and I can edit it as needed. If I scroll to the bottom, I can see that Jill Williams has not started. But at this point, since the majority of my class has completed, I want to go and I want to look at the results. So I'm going to go over to the results tab here, and I will see the results for any progress check that I have given throughout the course of the year so far. So you can see down here all the way from Unit 1 progress check, period 1, period 2, all the way through this Unit 5 progress check MCQ Part A that I just assigned and that my period 1 class just completed. Over here on the right, you will see my class-wide student performance on this particular assessment. If I click on here, I will get details about the individual students in my class section. So I can see I have the majority of my students in the yellow range here, but I do have one student that scored between 50 and 75% approximately. That's Trisha Kitteridge here. And I can see exactly how many points she scored out of the 21 questions that there were there. And then I can see that I have 5 students that fall in the 25 to 50% range. That matches with the 5 in the light yellow here. And then I have 8 students that fall into this darker yellow range. That's 0 to 25%. That 8 matches with this 8 right here. And then of course this one is Miss Jill Williams, who has not yet taken the assessment. I can click on individual students and see that individual students' responses. Or what I can do is close out of here and actually go into the assessment itself and see class-wide student data. So the first thing you should notice here is that there's an extra tab that I did not get with my topic questions. The topic questions had a questions tab and a students tab. And that's because I could assemble them in a lot of different ways. I may assign 1 at a time, 2 at a time, 3 at a time. I may have combined them over the course of multiple topics. But the progress check is static. In other words, it will always assess the same number of topics and skills. You can't change it in any way. So what I can see here on the side is the average points that my class earned out of the 3 questions. Remember, I said there was approximately 3 questions for every topic skill pairing. Um, and I can sort this list in a couple of ways. Right now it's sorted by topic. I can also sort it by skill. So one thing that I notice here is that in this first section, part A, there was uh, 2 different topics that were tied with skill 1A. And what I know right here is that we seem to have performed equally as not so great on both of these topic skill pairings. So that means I need to do a little bit of digging here, because I don't really know if it's the content that was the issue or the skill that was the issue, or both. Um, if for whatever reason students had scored better here on average than they had scored here, then that would be more of an indication that maybe it's the content that's at the issue, because they would have applied the same skill in both of these different contexts. So it's maybe the context that is the issue for the students. I can actually click here and see if since this is a calculated average, I can see here, there were 3 questions. There were questions 10, 11, and 12, and I can actually scroll through and see how students did on these individual questions, just to see if there's kind of like a notable difference. And it looks to me that students actually may have done slightly worse on this particular pairing with noticing question 15. It looks like only one student answered this question correctly. So I may want to do a little bit more digging here. I can click on the question itself and go to that question, or I can go to the questions tab. I do want to point out that the average will change as students do a little bit better. If I click here, you can see we way more green check marks than what I saw with the others, and that I will get more information on the remaining topic skill pairings as I assign part B. And it looks like those topic skill pairings will then be on the second part of that multiple choice section of the progress check. So I'm going to remember over here, I think it was question 15 that I may want to look at, but if I look at the questions tab here, I can actually see the individual results of all of the questions. Remember, this tells me how my class did overall on the entire progress check out of all 21 questions. This will tell me how students do on an individual question. So this is literally just how many students answered this correctly, how many students did not answer it correctly, and which students fell into which category. So I know right away, it seems like we did better on question 6, question 7, as I scroll down here, but here's that question 15 where I only had one student out of my entire class answer this question correctly. So maybe I want to take a greater look at this question. So I can click on the question itself, and I'm going to get some information about this question, including the question itself, um, and what the right answer is. And now, not just that 13 students answered this question incorrectly, but how many students actually chose which distractor. And if I click on this, I'll be able to show which students picked which distractor. So the sort of upsetting thing about this is that I was hoping to get a little bit more information about, was it one particular thing that students didn't understand about this question, right? In other words, did they all pick, everybody who got it incorrectly, who answered incorrectly, did they all pick option B for whatever reason? Is there one glaring misunderstanding that they may have that I can correct pretty quickly that will allow them not to make this mistake again in the future? But unfortunately, as I'm looking at this, what I'm realizing is that we're all over the map and actually evenly distributed almost between all of the distractors, which means there is some particular reason why my students were equally as distracted by all of these individual terms. Now, I may be able to kind of look at this and say, hey, this is very much sort of like a knowledge-based question. So I'm pretty sure here that the problem uh, is probably the content. And if I don't remember that, I can actually look at the skill and click on the skill and says describe environmental concepts and processes. Okay, well, if I don't know what crop rotation is, or intercropping, or terracing, or tilling, there's no way I'm going to be able to answer this question correctly. So this tells me that I may have a content issue. I have to go back and review some content with students. Sometimes it's you can get information that's a little bit more helpful in terms of how you spend your time reviewing with students. I just went to question 16 where it looks like 4 students answered correctly, but maybe I spend less time here going over why D is not the answer, because it seems like most students who answered this incorrectly chose between A and C. And maybe I kind of look at the rationales for A and the rationale for C and really kind of do some digging here about, let's talk about why these two are not the answers. I can always check in separately with Hazel and Karen to see like, hey, like, does this make sense to you, or are you still confused as to why D is not the answer? Maybe this isn't necessarily worthy of a full class discussion, being as though that I only have 2 students that answered this incorrectly. And so on and so forth through here. I can also see like this was topic 5.5 with skill 7C. I can see that questions 17 and 18 also assess this same topic skill pairing. I could go to the question bank and get more questions on 5.5. I can go to the question bank and get more questions on skill 7C. I can also maybe make the recommendation to these 10 students that answered this question incorrectly. Hey, you may want to go back and watch these AP daily videos, which will kind of do a review of some of the topic and content and skill that's addressed here. And if I've watched them before, I may want to actually really pinpoint them to a particular video and then a particular segment of the video. Or I can just say, hey, it's a good review for you to watch all of these over again, just so you have a really good understanding of the topic's content and skill. Um, the panel of item details makes another appearance here. So you can, again, begin to kind of make correlations to parts of the framework and, the topic skill pairing, and then any type of stimulus that may be involved here, which in this question doesn't exist. And then once again, there is the student panel, and the student panel can tell me very, very quickly, where I may want to spend some time. Again, I like to look for particular questions where I can kind of save myself a little bit of time on why certain things are not the answers. Like sometimes I'll be able to look at a question like this particular questions on slash and burn farming. It seems like there's only one student that picked choice D, but I'm equally split kind of between the incorrect answers of A and C. So maybe I want to spend my class time on why A and C are not the answers. Um, you know, uh, versus a question like this, and I think this is that question 15 again, where it's one student got it right, and then the incorrect answer choices are kind of equally as chosen by my students. I'm going to have to do a lot more triaging here when I go over this with my students. So really, all of this data is supposed to help you make the most of the time that you do have with your students. We know that time is limited and precious, and we hope that this data will be helpful to you. I'm going to take a quick detour over to the progress dashboard here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the report for all of my classes. You saw that I had a period 1 and a period 2. I'm going to load this for all of my students. And what I'm able to see here are the results of that my students had on their progress checks for unit 1, 2, 3, 4, and now the start of unit 5. You'll notice the asterisk next to unit 5, and that the asterisk means multiple tests. If I actually click on here, I shouldn't be too upset about the fact that I only see a 5 out of 39, because remember, there was only 21 questions on the first section here. I haven't assigned part B yet. So if my students happen to do better on part B, then these data will be averaged with these data, and I will get an updated average here. So make sure if your course has multiple parts to your progress check that you aren't taking the colors out of context if you haven't given your students all of the parts of the progress check. I can again go back and preview this. This is a link. This is a link as well. But one of the things that I notice here is that, my period 1 class started out really well with a 19 out of 33 average for the unit 1 progress check. My period 2 class, not nearly as great. But then we took a really significant dive in unit 2, started to make some improvement in unit 3, took a dive again in unit 4, and then I'm not sure where we're going to end up with unit 5. And as teachers, we know sometimes kids start out really well, they're motivated at the beginning of the year, they don't do so great with unit 2, then they have like a renewed focus, then you kind of hit the doldrums of the middle of the school year and holiday break and winter and stuff like this, and then students may bring this out toward the end of the the end of the school year. So it remains to be seen how students will do here, but I do want to kind of point out that these are the kinds of things that we want you to be able to notice as you go from unit to unit throughout the course. I can also make comparisons from one period to another. So if I had a period one class and a period seven class, is there a difference that me meeting with my students in the morning versus the afternoon? And maybe I can talk about how to motivate students that meet at a particular time during the day. I can also expand this list and get the individual results for particular students. Lucille started out probably one of the highest scores in this class, and still probably one of the higher scores in Unit 2, Unit 3, and now all of a sudden we hit 4 and 5, and we're not looking so great. So, is that a conversation I need to have with Lucille? Versus like some students, here's Trisha, who started out really well, took a really big dive, and now is on the rebound again. So these are some things that might be helpful for you to kind of look at. And then I can also see a student like Jill might be chronically absent, and that's a whole other conversation to be having. So I can get that information here. Um, I can also, if you used AP Classroom last year, we'll see how good my demo is, but you can make comparisons. And unfortunately, I don't have anything here, but if I had given the progress checks in the 2019-2020 school year, I might be able to make some comparisons. I would not be surprised to see 2020-2021 being a little rougher, given everything that's going on in the world, but it can kind of give you a sense of where your students were in 2019 to 2020 versus where they are in 2020, 2021. And finally, I will say here, if you are giving the free response, that will be on a different tab here. And you can also export the details of what is in this progress dashboard. So if you are meeting with other AP teachers of your course, or if you're meeting as a grade level team, or you're meeting with other AP teachers in your district, you can have this data in a more shareable form that will allow you to have conversations on different instructional techniques that you may want to use to help students uh, uh, better their course understanding of content and skills. So this will load really quickly so I can show you what this will look like. And I do want to point out really quickly here as this loads that AP Classroom and the progress checks are going to be formative assessments, right? These are meant to help students and teachers get a sense of student understanding of course content and skills at that point during the school year. They are meant to be an instructional and coaching tool. They are not meant to be averaged into course grades. So one of the things that we did do here was give you the percent correct. So here's Lucille again and her 23 out of 33 on that unit 1 progress check, and I see that that comes out to be a 69.70%. This 69.70% may be helpful in terms of having a conversation with other AP teachers or with administration in your school, but is not meant to become part of a student's overall course grade. So just a note to keep that in mind. These are formative assessment questions, and we hope that they'll be used as such. You can scroll through, you can see the unit changes here, and I get when it was administered, how many points were earned out of how many points possible, the percentage correct, etc. So we hope that this is helpful for those conversations that you have amongst other teachers and across schools, or across a professional learning community you may have established. Okay, so with that, I am going to kind of wrap it up for personal progress checks and the progress dashboard. I do want to encourage you to watch our other presentations that we've done for this, for these resources on AP Daily, on topic questions, on the question bank. If you're interested in seeing a little bit more on free response questions, we'll cover that in the question bank presentation. Until then, we want to say thank you for all you are doing, especially in this rough year, to meet the needs of your students, to support them, and everything you do to be supportive of AP in general. We hope that you and your loved ones are staying safe and well. And until next time, here's wishing you and your students all the best for a successful remainder of the school year. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself and have a good one.